I'm just going to share with you some of my own thoughts and experiences around this issue of trust and governance generally, I suppose. So first of all, I'm a pretty direct person. We haven't done enough. We're probably never going to do enough, because to me, governance is a culture. It's an ethos. It's not the tick-the-box exercise. And so therefore, to follow on from what Una said, it's never done. And I suppose one of the things that I've done both with Swim Ireland and we're doing with the Olympic Council is we set specific governance goals as part of their annual business planning to ensure that it's always on our radar. The other thing I'd say is that I totally believe that governance is about integrity. It is about doing what you think is right. But my experience is that most people believe what they're doing is right. They think what they are doing is in the best interest of their sport or their sector. And therefore, for me, education is key. And informed decision-making is key, which is why policies and procedures in place and agendas and all those type of things are actually key to ensuring that the right decisions are made. One of the things that we would feel strongly about in our organisation is that we don't do AOB, because generally AOB leads to uninformed decision-making, because somebody puts something on the agenda that people haven't thought about in advance, and nobody has maybe researched it or done a paper on it or looked at it. Now, sometimes that happens. Obviously, there are exceptional circumstances, but our general ethos is no AOB, because it can and generally does lead to uninformed decision-making. I began with Swim Ireland in 2004 as its first CEO. I came in at a time when our funding was suspended by Sports Council. We had 12 to 14 cases of child sexual abuse, civil cases against the organisation. We had a strategic plan that the board weren't aware of. Not one board member knew that there was a strategic plan that the organisation was supposed to be following. And we had other significant and substantial debts that the organisation was also facing. And I think, I've thought a little bit about what did we do to try and address them and to try and, build trust again within the organisation. And first of all, it doesn't come easy and it doesn't come quickly. And I don't think you can ever take it for granted. But some of the things we did do were, I suppose, first of all, Deloitte came in then. I'm facing another Deloitte report now in terms of the Olympic Council, but we had 28 recommendations with Deloitte then, and when everybody else was gone away and it wasn't in the media and Sports Council funding was restored, we asked Deloitte to come back in again ourselves as an organisation a couple of years later and said, we want you to come in and we want you to look at us again. We want you to do the assessment. We're not asking you to do it because we're forced to do it or because anybody said it or because it's going to be in the media. We want you to do it because we want to be able to stand over what we've done. We looked to go in front of the Oireachtas Committee. We weren't called in front of them. We went in and said, you did a report X amount of years ago. You should be calling us in. You're not. We want to go in front of you, and we want to tell you what we've done in terms of this, addressing the issues in this report. We have board training every year. It doesn't matter how experienced you are as a director, you train every year because it gives us an opportunity to remind ourselves of our duties, and it also gives us an opportunity to pick up what was maybe lost or learnt in terms of the board evaluation the previous year. So what didn't we do so well? And it's an opportunity then when you do the training for the chair and the CEO, if the organisation has one, to look at what didn't work so well and to put it in front of people in an open and transparent way. So I'm a real believer in that in terms of continuous training because, again, we can never be complacent when we're dealing with the significant issues that the charity sector faces, sports sector faces, and when we're dealing with public funds. I think the other thing is that it's not nice to be in crisis, and it's obviously been very damaging for the sector. But my own view is you've got to try and embrace it because it has an opportunity to bring about fundamental change. And I've said this to one or two people I've been speaking to. There's a lot of organisations that are trundling along, that are doing fine, but they're mediocre. And I come from sport. It's about pursuit of excellence. It's about being as good as you can be. And I believe administrators have a duty to be as good as they can be in order for athletes and coaches and everybody else involved to be as good as they can be. So it's about being a high-performing organisation. So it's trying to be great. Good isn't enough, in my view, where I come from. I can't ask athletes and others to be as best as they can be and then not expect the same from those of us running our sport or running our organisations. So crisis brings that opportunity because it's easier to make change when fundamentally everybody accepts that something's gone wrong. So in that sense, I would say we should try and embrace the difficult situation the sector is in and drive on to try and show that we are great in what we do. It's not easy to do that. My own experience is being defensive is not good, regardless of the fact that every organisation does certain things well and every organisation can improve. But being defensive, I think, when you're in a difficult place doesn't help, and hiding things doesn't help either. And even if we're all involved in legal issues, which often is the case, I think we have to try and be as open as we can and not try and hide behind those at the same time. And I suppose my own experience as well is that it's being consistent. What are you going to do? And then doing it. And then it doesn't matter if nobody's, no journalist has come to talk to you about it, or you're not getting nasty emails anymore. You still have to do it, and you have to communicate that you're doing it. And your own people will hear that message. And then, in my view, if you want people to trust you again, it has to be people that they trust who tell them that they can trust you again. So it's not going to be me coming out as president of the Olympic Council in a few years' time saying, I believe you should trust us again because we've done X, Y, and Z. I'm hoping that I'll be able to prove with the board and with others that we have done X, Y, and Z to people that other people trust. And that's how I think we will build trust. But we've got to do it first. We've got to earn the trust first. But then my own view is, you've got to get your own people to believe, and then they will help others believe, and that builds trust. So I think consistency is key. And I suppose I'll just finish by saying that, like we're all Irish citizens, we want our nation to be great, and part of that is being able to look yourself in the mirror. We're going to make mistakes. We're not always going to make the right decisions, but I think it's important that we get up every morning. We are not afraid to ask ourselves the hard questions, and we can look ourselves in the mirror saying that we've been acting with integrity, and we've learned what that means, and we've educated ourselves, and we're following our code of governance, because that's a direction that's giving us guidance as to what doing the right thing is. And I think if we do that, well then we're doing our bit for the Irish charity sector and for our nation.